was like, I want to tell you something. I said, okay, what? He said, grandma and uncle, they are very bad. How she molests him, how she touches his private parts, how she puts it in her own, how she sexually abuses him. And I was shocked. She needs traditional justice, legal justice, spiritual justice. She just needs to be punished for what she did.
Disbelief, fear, pain, disgust, so much disgust. These were the emotions that ran through Queen, whose mother molested her son. Every year, millions of girls and boys around the world face sexual abuse in every country and across all segments of the society. A child may be subjected to sexual abuse or exploitation at home, school, or in the community. Most often, abuse occurs at the hands of someone a child knows and trusts. Here is an account of how a grandmother abused her own grandson. This is Spotlight.
Okay, my name is Queen Olaku Ejalo. I'm 32 years old, a single mom of a 5-year-old son. I had my son October 2016 and I was with him for 1 year. After 1 year, it didn't work out between his father and I, so I had to fend for my son. And I was thinking about, like, there were talks on where to keep my son, because obviously living in the busy life of Lagos, you can't go to work and be with a 1-year-old. So I figured that the best person in the world that would take care of my son while I concentrate and do my job would be my mother. So I took my son to be with my mom, who stays in Ikeja, and while I went to work, so that I could, always support and provide for him. And he's been with her since 2017, and at first, the funny thing was, I did not even get to know my mom's house for like 1 year. She kept her house from me. She would always send the girls with her to pick up my son from the bus stop, and I didn't know her house. I didn't know where my son was, but I spoke to a few people and they were like, she's doing what's best for me so that I could concentrate on getting my life back. And in 2018 was when I got to know where she stays, and even at knowing that she would give me conditions to visit my son, like sometimes in a year I could see him like maybe twice in a whole year. And I would rarely even talk to him. Anytime I call, she's always the one talking to me. She's always telling me they need this, they need that, they need that. And anytime I see my son, because upon the whole money I was spending, my sisters were supporting, he was malnourished and so skinny, and I was worried. I was worried. I kept praying about it, and I just believed that things would get better. So during the lockdown last year, I think that was when I realized that I needed my son to be with me, that I just needed him, because I started having dreams where I would see my son, and every time it's like he needed my help. He just was trying to reach out to me. And the only thing keeping me back from taking my son was that, one, I didn't have a place of my own at the time, and two, anytime I talked to my mom about it, she would tell me to leave my son with her till he was 15 years old, and she would tell me that as an Igbo lady, that it would be very bad of me to be living with my child without being married, that no man would marry me, that I should wait until I get a husband before, and even after I get married, I should just leave my child with her and maybe tell my future husband that my child was my brother. She put these ideas in me. And to an extent, I felt she's my mother, right? She knows best. So, but deep down in me, I just knew that I needed my son. And late last year, I briefly went to stay with them for like almost a month. And I noticed a lot of characters in my son that I was not happy with. I noticed he was always getting away with everything he did. He would beat up elders, he would shout, he would scatter, he would, punch you in the face, and my mom would not even discipline him. And even when I tried to do that, she would shout at me and tell me to leave him alone, that she doesn't want him crying. And I'm like, he's a child, he's supposed to cry. I know how she brought me up. She used to beat us a lot, so all those things were in my mind and bothering me. And at a point, she got uncomfortable with me and asked me to leave the house, like sent me out of her house. But as God would have it, the same week she sent me out of her house, God provided an accommodation for me. And I was happy about that. Then I got another job and I was, trying to get on my feet again. And I knew that I wanted my son. So January this year, she came telling me that, oh, why don't I travel out? That I should travel out. I could go to Dubai, I could go to Canada. I should go and work and keep sending them money. That I should not worry, that he's fine with her. And all this while, my elder brother, her first son, stays with her and my son, that they will take care of him, that they are okay, I shouldn't worry about him. And every time I've tried to leave the country, it just does not work out. I was getting worried about it. Like anytime the money comes, the money will be used for something else. And I was beginning to wonder why. But I think God was trying to tell me something, because if I had left the country, trust me, I don't know what, I would have lost my son forever. So during the Children's Day, my sister, my elder sister, and her daughter were like, okay, she wants to take us out for Children's Day, but I couldn't make it. So I was able to arrange for my sister to go pick up my son, and they went and they had a nice time on Children's Day on the 29th. And when he got back home, my mom left me messages on WhatsApp over the night threatening me that she will never let me or anybody come near this boy again. She will never let him leave the house again, blah, blah, blah. And she said all manner of things that really disturbed me. And I reached out to my friend, I reached out to my sisters, and I told them, look at what she said. And, they were like, maybe it's high time you take your son. Maybe you just take him, let him start spending time with you. And I was like, okay, where I stay is small, but then again, I see other mothers in the compound where I stay. And even though they live in small houses, but they're with their children, they grow with their children. So I was like, if they can do it, why can't I do it? And then I planned that, okay, the next weekend, which was I think the 4th or 5th of June, that I was going to go take my son. Now, of course, the excuse that I used in taking my son from her was that he needed to go for his immunization and for his birth certificate. That was the only thing that got her to let me take him out of the house. And so I went that day, I took my son. I would say he was scared that day, and that first day he kept saying he didn't want to stay with me, he wanted to go back to his grandma. And I was almost like as if I couldn't do it, but my friend encouraged me and said, don't worry, you can do it, we'll do it together, we'll take care of him. And from the second day, on his own, that night when he slept, I noticed that he was speaking in his dream, and he was like, I don't want to go back, I want to stay here. And the next day, he said to me, he said, Mommy, I don't want to go back to grandma, I want to stay with you. And I was shocked because I mean, this is somebody that calls his grandma, his mom, and calls me by my name. He doesn't even see me as his mother. So I laughed over it, and then I noticed some things as well. I noticed that his private parts was, what word would I use? I noticed his private parts was abnormally big. It was abnormally large. It was like that of an adult. And at first, when I'm taking his shower, I would make fun of him and be like, oh man, when he grows up, girls are going to suffer this and that, and he's endowed. But then I started getting worried, because if I hug my son, his private parts gets erected. If I touch him, he reacts to it. And I was getting worried, but I still did not imagine anything out of the ordinary. So about 5 days later, on Friday, no, exactly a week later, on Friday, in the afternoon, my son opened up to me, and he was not like, because he was still calling me my name, he was like, Ilak, instead of calling me Ulaku, he says Ilak, and he was like, I want to tell you something. I said, okay, what? He said, Grandma and Uncle, they are very bad. I said, why? What did they do? And that was when he started talking and saying, not just talking, but demonstrating. It was like how she molests him, and how she touches his private parts, how she puts it in her own, how she sexually abuses him. And I was shocked. Okay, he first of all started off by telling me about my mom and my brother. Like, Grandma and Uncle, they are always fighting. And I was like laughing. I was like, okay, what kind of fights? But when he started demonstrating it, he was demonstrating like they were actually having sex. And I laughed it off, because I was like, well, that's her business, that's your business. There's nothing new under the sun. We hear things like that, mothers and children. But when I took it serious and started like really asking him questions and be sure what he was saying, was when he was saying what she does to him, that she does it every morning. And she now said, and with everything he had told me, I was scared, and I just said, let me ask him the dreaded question. And I was like, did your uncle do anything to you? And he was like, yes. I don't know how I didn't faint, but I just broke down in tears, and he was demonstrating how his uncle molests him sexually, through his anus, and it's horrible. It's horrible. I wasn't myself that day. I think I had an altercation with one of my neighbors that day. I wasn't in the right frame of mind. The next day, I was not okay. On Sunday, I think I was having high blood pressure, so I confronted her on Sunday, sent her a series of messages on WhatsApp. She listened to everything and she didn't reply. Then I also remembered that my brother was also on my WhatsApp, so I sent him messages on WhatsApp, and immediately he blocked me on WhatsApp. So my friend reached out to her, and the minute my friend reached out to her, she replied him and was trying to put him against me, saying that I'm a bad person, I'm always talking about people, I'm always making stories up, that she's waiting for Jesus, that she's a born-again Christian, that she's waiting for the rapture, that her life is in Jesus Christ. And then she will now threaten me and said, for what I have done, that she's going to deal with me this time around, and that she's given 7 days, that either she or me, one person was going to die in 7 days, that she would make sure that I regret my actions. And when she said that, of course, I also attacked her, I countered her, and I couldn't keep it anymore. I told my sisters, I told my uncles, my dad's family, and they were all shocked. They were all surprised. They said it was a great abomination. They reached out to my brother. My brother did not deny it. He instead was saying that, my son was making things up. He was possessed, and It's just been one thing after the other, really. It's something that took me time to understand. I thought at a point, I thought maybe I was going crazy. Maybe my son was making it up. Maybe it was not true. But as the days kept unfolding, someone told me that I should do a video, but I shouldn't let my son know I was doing a video, that I needed to have it on video so that when it does get to the courts, they won't be able to deny it and there will be evidence. So I did a video, and I've not been able to watch that video again since I did that video, but it was just so heartbreaking. It was so heartbreaking, seeing a 4-year-old knowing what an adult knows and knowing exactly what a man should know and do to a woman. It was just so sad. So I told a few friends, and then someone posted it on his own WhatsApp status and got ideas, opinions from people. And then someone directed me to the Domestic and Sexual Violence Response Team of Lagos State and gave me their contact, that I should reach out to them. So I reached out to them and I told them my story, that my son has been sexually abused. So they took my information, my son, my address, and also the details of the perpetrators. And then I sent them the video I did. So when they saw the video, they said it's not anybody trying to put words in his mouth, but he's saying what he has been through. So I was directed to a psychologist, I was directed to the health center, and also to the nearest police station that has a family team, So and then I reached out to my sisters and my uncles, like letting them know the development before I take the step. And of course, my uncles and my father's family were like, yes, go ahead, get them jailed. But my sisters were like, protecting a name, because my dad is late, saying that this is just going to be a stain in my dad's name. And, in the future, it would affect me, it would affect this. And I was upset with what they said. I was upset with it because I was like, if it was their own children that this had happened to, that they would take the matter up. They would not even wait for anybody to tell them what to do. They would have arrested the perpetrators a long time. But because it's not them, they are telling me not to do it. So I told them that, well, I would go ahead and do what I feel is best, what I feel is right, and I know that someday my voice will be heard and justice will be served. Sometimes he will just come on me when I'm lying down and he will like, Mommy, I want to show you that I love you, and wants to actually like abuse me, And so I now decided to start disciplining him. Anytime I noticed that, I would take up a cane, I would flog him, and immediately to go down. So, and then I also talked to him as I was disciplining him that this is bad, this is not good. So he on his own, I've noticed that anytime that happens, he controls it. He tries to make it go down. He tries for me. Sometimes I do like I don't see it, and he tries to correct himself. And also daily, I think he's getting better daily. Like, it's not much of an improvement yet, but he's happier, he's relaxed, he's more calm, and he's forgetting the ordeal. He's forgetting it. Though sometimes he tells me that, maybe when I step out to buy something, that my mother appears to him and, threatens him and says, you must come back to me. And when he shouts at her, no, she will disappear. Or he'll see her in his dreams and she would try to touch him and he would say no, And so I had to tell him, I pray with him, I taught him how to pray. And I'm like, okay, anytime you see that, just shout blood of Jesus or Holy Ghost fire. And so I think he knows that this is something he needs to fight up against. Of course, being a child, he tells me, Mommy, I'll use my PJ Maxx power and my Power Rangers power to fight Grandma and Uncle, but he knows that what they did is bad, and so he's fighting it. My greatest mistake was trusting my own mother with my child, and I've been telling people, anyone that cares to listen, that, you know, the best person that can raise your child is you, no matter the situation, you know. And it's one mistake that I keep apologizing to my son for, because there was a day that he got angry with me and voiced out. He even cried. He cried himself to sleep that night, and he was like, "Mommy, why? Why did you leave me? Why?" You know. And anytime he wants to poo-poo, he goes through so much pain. His anus comes really big out, and it's like he's having pile, but it's as a result of the penetration to his anus. And sometimes he'll tell me his bum bum is paining him. Sometimes I see him going through pain, and it breaks my heart. If I could turn back the hands of time, I would never have taken him anywhere. I would never have let him out of my sight. It was, I mean, you know, after that happened, I can't trust any human being. I won't tell people you cannot trust anybody, because my own mother and brother, my own blood, I mean, doing this to, he's not even an adult, he's 4 years old, and they've been abusing him since he was 3 years old. And that's about 2 years now. And that is so sad. I'm willing to go whatever length to get justice, but even in getting justice, of course, I have to protect my son because of the future, because of tomorrow. You know, I have to make sure that the stigma doesn't rest on him. So like I said to my sister, I'm willing to make that sacrifice, and that sacrifice is putting myself out there to get justice for my son. Of course, he'll be behind the scenes, but I will get justice for him. I want him to be okay first, psychologically, but I want those that did this evil, because this is evil, this is wickedness. I want them to pay. I want them to pay. I want them to rot in jail. I want the government, I want the international bodies, whoever it is that can help me in this battle, to make sure that the perpetrators pay for their crimes. They shouldn't go free. They shouldn't. This is a crime against humanity. This is a crime against childhood. This is a crime. And this hurts me more because my mom also abused me when I was a child. I know everything she put me through. I know everything I went through. But somehow I was able to, because of, you know, I've grown up, I've seen life, and I became a Christian, I was able to forgive her. But doing this to my son, I don't know. Because of God, I won't hate her, but I cannot forgive her for this. And I do not care whatever judgment is passed on her. Some people say she deserves death. Some people say she deserves to be jailed for life. She deserves whatever it is. She deserves to be thrown into the evil forest. She needs traditional justice, legal justice, spiritual justice. She just needs to be punished for what she did. And her son, my elder brother, he's even more sick in the head, and he's even more evil to do what he did. He needs to also pay for his crimes. So I'm willing to go any lengths. I'm willing to go any length for justice.
That was a quite pathetic story of Queen Ulakuejalo, a young boy with his grandmother molested by his grandmother and his uncle. Nobody deserves to be abused. Nobody deserves to be molested. Sexual abuse or any form of abuse is a crime punishable by law. And I urge the Nigerian government and every other government, international bodies responsible for handling cases like this to look into this case of Queen and make sure her son gets justice. My name is Margaret Opera, and this is Spotlight.